What is up everyone, Barricade here, and I'm bringing you guys episode 20 of Gears of War lore. Today I'm going to be talking about one character that I personally really liked a lot throughout the whole series, and that is Hoffman. His story is actually pretty dang interesting. He had a really crazy backstory revolving around the Pendulum Wars, and while I'm not going to go into every single story about the Pendulum Wars that he was in, I will go into the major ones that were pretty much interesting and worth mentioning in my opinion, and then I'm also going to talk about his history with the Locust and the story revolving the hammer strikes and even the stories with his wife. So to start us off here, I'm going to just go into actually with the Pendulum Wars. One very interesting story about him in the Pendulum Wars was he actually was the leader of the part of the cog that was watching over Anvil Gate. If you don't remember what Anvil Gate is, it's actually the place that we got to see in Gears of War 3 that Hoffman and Bernadette were watching over and trying to protect from the Locust, which actually was one of the major reasons why that was introduced in Gears of War 3, was simply because it was a major point, major place in his life that had to do a lot with him fighting against the UIR. So that's why it was brought in Gears of War 3. So the Anvil Gate is just another station that was with the COG, and the thing that was really interesting with that part of his story was that actually he knew Sam's parents. Samantha Byrne, her parents were Samuel Byrne, and her mother's name was Sharia, if I'm saying that correctly. I got it from the Gearspedia. But basically, Samuel Byrne knew this woman for a long time while they lived in Anvil Gate. He was stationed there, and then she was also stationed there, not as a soldier, but actually as an interpreter for, the COG. And she was very good at speaking fluently in both languages, that the normal language that the COG spoke and what the Indie spoke. So they pretty much really went to her for interpreting conversations, and that's basically what her job was. And then she later met Samuel, fell in love, they got serious, and they pretty much got pregnant with Sam. So the thing that was really interesting with Hoffman, the thing that has to do with Hoffman regarding that little story there, is simply that Hoffman knew about the relationship. It was something that he kind of saw happened, and he really cared about his soldiers and everything. And the one thing that was really really cool of Hoffman that he did for this soldier, that he did for Samuel and the mother as well, is he actually told Samuel, if you want to get married, if you want permission to get married while you're deployed, that I can do that for you. So he pretty much asked Samuel if that's what he wanted to do, and Samuel agreed, and he was able to get married even though he was deployed. So that was actually a really nice thing that Hoffman did. He's able to pretty much hook up a soldier there and just let him live his life even though he was currently deployed. So that was the thing that was really nice of him. But unfortunately, not too long after this happened, Anvil Gate was attacked by the UIR. And actually, Hoffman set up a very good ambush plan to attack the UIR while, to try to stop them. And what it was is a trick saying that they were surrendering to the UIR, and once the UIR soldiers entered Anvil Gate, they would light up the area that they were in on fire and then just attack them. This broke out into a huge fight, obviously, and it was just a back and forth battle between the COG and the UIR. And while this was happening, he actually was able to help the mother actually escape. So he helped the mom leave, and then he was really trying to help Samuel escape as well. He ordered Samuel to lead the evacuation, pretty much just trying to save both of them so, the baby that was on the way would have parents. But unfortunately, Samuel was very determined to stay and help fight the UIR, and he was really determined to not leave his comrades behind. Unfortunately, after this battle was over, they actually found Samuel, and he was dead. And this obviously led to Samantha growing up without a father, and actually a way to honor Samuel, the mother actually named Sam, Samuel and Samantha. So that's pretty much just what she did as a way to honor him. And then this was pretty much the major point, the biggest point that I can honestly say when it comes to Hoffman and the Pendulum Wars. There's obviously other parts like asphalt fields and stuff, but actually I was thinking about making an episode all about asphalt fields. So now about the actual Locust part of Hoffman's history. The main one that I really want to talk about when it comes to Hoffman is actually he was one of the people that set off the Hammer of Dawn counter-strike. If you recall, after a year of fighting against the Locust post E-Day, they pretty much were losing. There was like really no hope. There was pretty much nothing left but death. It was going to be like several weeks before the locusts were going to overrun Jacinto and pretty much kill everyone. So the only thing that they could think of to prevent this from happening was doing the Hammer of Dawn strike. So pretty much the first thing that they did was warn people, but unfortunately they only gave those people 3 days. And while this was all happening, before they even warned anyone, actually, Hoffman was told that this was going to happen. And he had a long time to let people know, but of course he was pretty much ordered not to. And this was actually very hard for him because at the time he was married to a woman named Margaret. And he really loved her a lot, and he knew that she had relatives out there, other parts of the world, that, knowing that the world was going to be destroyed soon would have been very, helpful for them. And he had to pretty much keep this from his wife and her relatives. And once the Hammer of Dawn strikes were announced, she was extremely angry. And one of them, obviously, it was because she was trying to protect her sister. She was definitely trying to do everything she could to protect her sister. And seeing as, that it was pretty much Hoffman's fault for not warning her, she was very angry to him. She basically hated him after this. And she really wanted to save her sister. And then the last words that I can honestly say that was really sad when it came to Hoffman and his wife was, I don't remember the exact words, maybe someone correct me, but I'm pretty sure she said, "Screw you, Victor," or something along those lines. She told Hoffman that. That was pretty much her last words, were like, "Screw you, Victor," or like, "Fuck you, Victor," or something like that along those lines. Pretty much just, that was the last lines he ever got from his wife that he loved, was pure hate from her because she couldn't believe that he didn't tell her about this, and it was pretty much like leading to the death of her loved ones. So she abandoned him, left him, and went to try to leave Jacinto and everything. And while this was happening, he actually ordered other COG soldiers to basically prevent her from leaving, to try to detain her. So if she was trying to leave the city, if they caught her, they would pretty much like arrest her and save her life. And even though he knew that she would hate him for this, he still was trying to do this just to protect her. But unfortunately, once it got really close, the 3 days later, on the day of the hammer strike, he hadn't heard from her. He didn't find anything about her. He didn't know if she was found, and they had no sign of her. So pretty much at this point, she was either on the way to try to save her sister and was killed by the locust, or she simply just didn't make it back in time. And this was a huge weight on Hoffman's shoulders because he pretty much caused his wife to leave him and pretty much die. So he was going through like a really huge like emotional thing at this point. And actually, one thing that Adam Phoenix said to him, they're having a quick little conversation, and Hoffman actually told Adam, "I'm really glad that your son made it back in time, that he made it back before we do this hammer strike." And then after this, Adam actually asked him, "So, what about your wife? How's your wife doing?" And Hoffman basically told him, "She left, and I haven't heard of anything. She's missing." And Hoffman was real, Adam was actually real distraught to hear this. He was like, he felt so bad for Hoffman. Pretty much to the extent that he even told Hoffman that he would be the one to turn the key. And what I mean by that is, before they could do this hammer strike, 3 keys had to be turned in order to activate the Hammer of Dawn. And I believe that the 3 people that had to turn it was Hoffman, the general of the COG, and Prescott. So they all had to turn it at the same time in order to activate the Hammer of Dawn. And as a way, as like saying sorry to Hoffman, Adam actually tried to take his spot so he can be the one to turn the key, seeing as he's the one that made the Hammer of Dawn. But Hoffman refused. He told him no. Pretty much said no. This isn't your fault, and I'm just going to be the one to turn the key because this is my job. You shouldn't be the one that has to feel this weight of destroying the world. So they pretty much turned the 3 keys. Hammer of Dawn struck the whole entire planet, killed like 90% of the world. And, Hoffman just had to deal with this, knowing that his wife is dead because of him. And he probably was actually literally the reason why she died when he turned the key to pull the Hammer of Dawn. So he never got to find out any information about her, if she died, before or after the strikes. And he just pretty much just had to go forward from there and just be the colonel that we all know him for. So at this point, after all this, we got to see him, in Gears 1, Gears 2, Gears 3. But this is pretty much like his history during the, Pendulum Wars, and, just his major role in the Hammer of Dawn strikes after E-Day. So pretty much the major things that I can bring up with Hoffman, there's a lot more stuff with him during, the Locust War and, the Pendulum Wars, but to me these were like the ones that I felt like I had to mention and talk about the most. So anyways guys, if you guys liked this video, please definitely hit that like button, subscribe, and tell me what you guys think about Hoffman's backstory. Was it a pretty interesting story? Honestly, I really liked it a lot. But anyways guys, thanks for watching and take it easy.